Thousands of Cubans have died at the hands of terrorist groups working out of the US. In 1998, at the request of the FBI, Cuba handed over information about the activities of the groups. But instead of the terrorist leaders being charged, 5 Cuban nationals were arrested in Miami for gathering information about terrorist plots against their country. These men were to become known as the Miami Five.
Our experience has shown that the worst thing that can happen to anyone who is in an American prison is to be alone and without support on the outside.
It's not just the men who are being punished, but also their families, because they are experiencing severe delays in getting visas to go and visit their loved ones. And in the case of 2 of the wives, Adriana, the wife of Gerardo, and Olga, the wife of Rene, they have been denied visas consistently on 8 consecutive occasions.
Yo, por supuesto, no soy un peligro ni para la seguridad de Estados Unidos, ni para la seguridad de ningún país, mucho menos para cualquier otra persona.
The treatment of family members has been condemned by the United Nations and human rights groups around the world.
We consider that the refusal to issue visitation visas to the wives constitutes unfair and unreasonable and cruel treatment and is contrary to the US's obligations to humane treatment and to respect for family life.
As well as the mistreatment of family members, the case itself has outraged legal opinion across the world. For nearly 50 years, Miami-based terrorists opposed to the Cuban government have targeted Cuba.
In the early 1960s, when I was in the CIA, we all knew of the sabotage and the terrorism program that was going on against Cuba. Of course, we didn't call it terrorism at that time. We in the CIA called them operations for the liberation of Cuba. This 45-year war against Cuba, undeclared war against Cuba. Nearly 3,500 Cubans have been killed. More than 2,000 Cubans have been disabled for life.
In 1996, the FBI approached Cuba to seek information about the terrorist attacks.
Pronto llega un mensaje oficial de Washington proponiendo que Cuba reciba a una delegación de especialistas, incluyendo oficiales del FBI, para recibir información sobre estas actividades para ellos actuar. Vinieron acá y se les entregó mucha información, absolutamente nada, ninguna acción. Lo único que ocurrió después fue el arresto de los 5 compañeros que tuvo lugar unos meses después de esa reunión en La Habana.
The United Nations Commission on Human Rights has called into question the fairness of the trial. One of America's leading human rights lawyers defended the 5.
There were violations that occurred right from the start to the finish. The arrest and the manner of the arrest. The 17 months in isolation, completely unnecessary. No bail, not necessary in this case. Accumulating the charges, 7 months later adding a charge of conspiracy to commit murder. Placing the trial in Miami, where the government knew the defendants could not get a fair trial. Prosecutorial misconduct throughout the trial, with this prosecutor telling the jury that these men came to the United States to destroy the United States, not once but 3 times.
But while these 5 men have suffered from this highly political trial, the families have had to get on with their lives without their loved ones.
Quiero decirle que desde que comenzó la lucha, que nos enteramos de esta situación, todos los familiares de ellos 5 nos unimos para luchar y todos parecemos una gran familia.
One of the real travesties of the case has been the media silence that has surrounded it. A silence that Unite and sister unions in the UK and around the world want to break.
Unite and the rest of the British and Irish trade union movement are determined now to mount this campaign to put pressure on the American government to give visas, to give access, to give them their human rights and entitlements to visit their husbands and fathers in those jails. It's 10 years on. It's now time for justice. It's now time for action.